Hello, advanced English learners. Welcome back. I'm joined, of course, by the one and only Greg.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for joining me, Greg. And thank
course.
you, all of us, for joining us. So we have a fun conversation for you today. And before we get into that, I'd like to remind you why we do these conversations. These conversations are to help you improve your English language, social fluency, your communication, your conversation skills, understanding native English speakers speaking at a relatively natural pacing, being able to understand the conversation and have a listening comprehension worksheet that goes along with this. So to be able to get that, you would have to be signed up for our community, Exploring Academy. So all the details are below. I highly recommend you check it out. That's where you'll join me and sometimes Greg for daily touch points and all the amazing things that we have in our Exploring Academy. So that's where you'll find the worksheet. I do hope that you check it out by joining. All right, so let's get into our conversation. So, Greg, do you know what today's topic is?
Today's topic, you'll have to remind me.
So we're going to talk about the future of streaming services.
Oh, yeah.
Very exciting. All right,
Yeah.
let's get into it. All right, I think it's important to preface this with what came before streaming so that we can see where streaming is going. So should we share a little bit about that with the audience?
Pre-streaming?
Yeah.
The world of pre-streaming?
Pre-streaming world.
Whew. A lot of you probably weren't even of age to watch content when they didn't have streaming. Prior to streaming, back when we were kids, it was VHS tapes, which were these boxes you put into another box to play it, like a cassette tape, essentially. And they had magnetic strips. Then things got really fancy, and we had DVDs, which you could play in a computer, which was a revolution, right? You could suddenly watch movies on something other than a TV with a VCR. But, you know, it also, in terms of renting the movie, it all followed the same model, which was you could buy the movie or you could rent it. And if you're renting it from one of these major rental companies, or you had your local neighborhood video rental company.
I remember I have such fond memories. Friday night rolls around and we pick out a movie either with my family or my friends if we're doing like a slumber party or something, and it would be so fun, and you'd have to choose the right movie, like for the right vibe. Do we want a scary movie? Do we want like a sci-fi movie? What do we want? And it would be so fun. I remember spending, I don't even know how long we would spend in like Blockbuster, which is one of the famous VHS rental stores.
Yeah, Blockbuster almost had a monopoly. Pretty much anywhere you went, even in Hong Kong when I was growing up, we had Blockbuster there.
Wow.
But what I enjoyed even more than the Blockbusters were the little hole-in-the-wall movie rental places, because there's always someone kooky running the shop. In fact, they make movies about these people because they're such characters.
Yeah.
Because all they do is watch movies all day, and you can get phenomenal recommendations from them, the deepest of deep cuts. They know movies that, you know, you wouldn't even know existed, much less the sort of arts and what do you call them? The sort of...
Like the genre?
Yeah, there's all different genres, but there's some very art house theater stuff, just very esoteric things these guys know, right? They were the ultimate curators. And that was always fun to pick their brains and be like, I'm in the mood for this. What can we watch? So that was fun too.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, which don't forget that point that Greg just shared, because it's going to have something to do with the future of streaming. So keep that in your minds, and I will as well. Now, after that whole period of, we went from VHS to then getting DVDs and Blu-ray, and then Netflix rolls around and they do something pretty cool. I remember we were in college at the time when this happened, where you could rent a movie, you could rent a DVD, you'd rent it on your computer and you would get it in the mail delivered to you. And then they would come in these like thin red envelopes. They'd be folded in nicely. So excited to get that in the mail. And then after you viewed the DVD, you would seal it up and send it back. And I don't think there was even postage required.
Yeah, it was basically mail order movies.
Yeah.
But it came sooner than that. I had it in high school, so I loved it all through high school. You were in the city, so there wasn't as much of a need to get yours in the mail.
Interesting.
Right? You could just go around the block. For me, I went to boarding school, I couldn't just step outside to get a movie. I had to order it in the mail. There was no one to drive me, or we'd have to take a cab into town. It'd be expensive.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, you get your movies in the mail. And that was revolutionary. This idea that you could, and it was also, you could get as many movies as you wanted. As soon as you returned it, you could rent a new one, and you just paid a monthly fee. That was also a big deal.
Yeah, it was a subscription service, which is revolutionary. And it was really cool to have that service.
And what was cool about it as well is you could, for the first time, browse the movies online, right? And so you could see the entire library of movies on their website, as opposed to having to go to a shop and physically walk around the shop to find your movie. Here, suddenly, you could actually see them in digital form, all your options. But it was still a physical copy that you ordered.
Yeah, yeah. And you'd have to put it into your machine. You'd have a separate DVD player, or the ones that come in built into the computers. Not anymore, not these days, folks. But anyway, so I remember having fond memories of that. And it replaced that VHS going to the store, the Blockbuster around the corner, and checking out your movies. So after that, something even cooler happened, which, who spearheaded it? I think it was Hulu.
It may have been Hulu.
Yeah.
For me, Netflix was the one that really made it usable.
For me too.
But what are we talking about here?
So streaming.
Yeah.
That's when the world, I think, changed for the better.
Yeah, and streaming had been around already for music, right? So streaming music had already started. This idea that you could, instead of having to buy a CD of music, you could play an MP3 through the internet. And that was a big deal, right? It used to take, I remember back in middle school, it would take like an hour to download a song, and that was a big deal.
And I also remember like buying the CD from the Best Buy or wherever, then listening to it on my player or on my computer, then downloading all the songs so that I could upload all the songs to my iPod.
It's called ripping, right? You would rip the CD.
You'd rip it. That's right.
Yeah,
And I remember just being like waiting for that green check mark, like that all my songs were downloaded. And then I just have them on my phone. I think that's how it started before the streaming.
That's what built up these digital libraries
Yeah.
of content. And I would actually spend time trying to find the fastest CD ripper. So different CD-ROM drives had different speeds. And that was like a big technical thing at the time.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so we had this digital media. But digital music is very different than digital video, because digital video requires much more bandwidth.
Yeah.
And so the big revolution, I think you're right, that was Hulu that maybe was like the first official streamer.
Yeah.
But Netflix was the one that really popularized it.
100%.
So they took their same model of physical DVDs that you subscribe to and get as many you want. They expanded that to also have this digital collection.
Yeah.
And so you can start streaming the videos directly from their website instead of having to wait for them to come in the mail.
Yeah.
And that was totally game-changing, right? Part of what they were able to do is create a new compression algorithm that enabled these videos to be streamed over the internet, even if you didn't have that fast of a connection, right? Because again, streaming video takes so much bandwidth. So anyways, suddenly we could watch movies online on demand.
Yeah. And this is right around the time when YouTube started being a thing, before Google had purchased it or acquired it. And at the time, YouTube was about animal videos, and I don't think there were really even the concept of YouTuber. So it's not at all like what it is today. And there were no movies on YouTube. And so Netflix comes in, and as Greg said, they popularized it. So I remember jumping on the bandwagon and being like an early adopter of Netflix, because I had already loved the mail-in. And that's actually what we started with. I think we started with Netflix. And I just remember thinking it was so cool, so practical. And the only issue was that, so I was and still am, a big Francophile. That's one of my second languages. And
What's a Francophile?
A person who has a love of French language and culture. So I identify as that as well. And as a French language speaker, I would always want to watch French movies. But Netflix didn't have that. Now they do, but at the time they didn't. So I would still have to order my DVDs from France, go onto a French website. I used lefnac.com. And I remember just ordering it, getting a nice box of goodies from there. But Netflix now has movies in different languages and series in different languages. So it's just become a huge empire.
Right. And so what they ended up doing was building the largest library of published videos on the web, right? Published media. And again, this is in contrast to YouTube, which was much more amateur streaming, right? At that time, there weren't really any professional YouTube channels. It was just amateurs posting videos online. So Netflix, by contrast, was displaying real produced movies, professionally produced movies. And that was just such a big deal. But of course, they have this huge library. So they ran into a problem, which is we have so many movies, people are having trouble finding the movie they want to watch, right? And of course, they can feature some on their front page, but it became a challenge of determining how can we ensure that the people get the movie they want? They get the movie they're in the mood for. And so the next innovation that Netflix pioneered was a really good recommendation algorithm. So they started developing machine learning algorithms that were able to learn your preferences and the preferences of other people using a lot of ratings. So people would give things a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And through that, they were able to develop this curation system that helped curate the movie that you wanted to watch.
So based on what you watched, how you rated something, even if you didn't give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, the fact that you merely watched it to the end is a telltale sign of, okay, watch it to the end. They probably like this movie, right? Because if you don't like a movie or a TV show, you're going to pause it and watch something else or do something else. And so, yeah, the algorithm started to kick in and just launch this whole thing where suddenly recommendations were a thing, and you didn't have to necessarily find something and be proactive. You could literally just see stuff pop into your feed and be like, I want to watch that, or that looks really interesting to me.
Yeah, it took that sort of, there's this often this anxiety about selection, right? I don't know what to choose. And if there's too many options, you get overwhelmed.
And choice paralysis.
Yeah, you experience choice paralysis. You're paralyzed by too many choices. So they then solved that problem. And that's where we are now, right? Now a bunch of other streaming services have replicated their model. You have Disney, Hulu,
Prime, Amazon.
HBO, of course, went digital. HBO was always digital in the way that it was on cable, but they now have their streaming service. NBC has Peacock, right? There's so many of these.
Apple TV.
Oh yeah, Apple TV, of course. So all of these different players, and they're competing. And that's the state we're in now.
Yeah.
But the reason we film this is because we want to talk about what's coming next.
The future.
And this is what, when I first heard this, really blew my mind. But the fact is, it's a lot closer than it might sound.
Okay, so you're probably on the edge of your seat here. I'm curious, what are you guessing right now? What direction could it possibly go in? And I think for me, I would try to think, how else could they enhance the experience for you? They have movies that are proprietary to Netflix, and they have different Netflix studios around the country. So you could watch a Turkish Netflix series or Turkish Netflix movie that was filmed there, and it gives you that authentic experience. Same with like different languages, French culture, different languages, Spanish, etc. So how else can they customize it, right? And so this is where things get really interesting.
Right. Now, for the last few years, they've been developing, Netflix in particular, but all the studios have been starting to develop movies at a faster pace based on the different kinds of moods that they're trying to evoke, right? There's genres they're very nuanced genres, right? Like upbeat and bright, spooky and fun.
Suspenseful,
right?
Fantasy,
sci-fi, but suspenseful sci-fi, or it's like popcorn sci-fi, right? There's so many of these subcategories. And so what they've been doing over the past few years is producing these relatively low budget, high volume, Netflix is famous for this, low budget, high volume content. And it's fine, it's okay, and it basically tries to address a niche group. And if you address enough niche groups, they become very dedicated, and you end up with a large dedicated audience. But as you recall in a previous episode, we've also talked about something called GPT-3, right?
Oh, yes.
And GPT chat. And if you recall, if you haven't seen those, you should just search that on the channel. I can't remember the name, but
it has GPT-3 in it.
If you search GPT-3 in our channel, you'll find it.
Yeah.
But what these can do is produce content based on a prompt that you provided. And we're not just talking about 2-sentence answers. The GPT chat in particular can write an entire paper for you if you asked it to. If you said, write me 1,000 words on the French Revolution, it'll write you 1,000 words on the French Revolution.
So crazy. Yeah.
That's cool.
Very cool.
That's just text. Guess what? It's not always going to be text. Let's say you take the text from GPT-3 and you move it over to Stable Diffusion.
Right.
Stable Diffusion can generate images based on the text.
So you'll see like that, the Lensa app, and there's some other AI apps like that. Even things like DALL-E, that's all based on Stable Diffusion technology.
Right, exactly. DALL-E is actually a competing algorithm, but yeah, they're all similar.
It's using Stable Diffusion, right?
It's not. So Stable Diffusion and DALL-E are using similar algorithms.
Text to image.
Text to image, exactly. But they do it in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
And the DALL-E one is proprietary. The Stable Diffusion is using an open source algorithm.
Okay.
OpenAI is actually, believe it or not,
Separate.
That's the proprietary one.
They
so call themselves OpenAI, but they're really proprietary. There is separately a truly open source algorithm that Stable Diffusion uses.
Okay.
And that's why things aren't licensed on Stable Diffusion.
Oh, interesting.
So anyways, the point is you can take text and you can turn it into image. What is the next logical step there? If you can take text and turn it into image, couldn't you take text and turn it into video? Yeah. That's where we're going. And to really drive the point home, this could be, in 3 or 5 years, your Netflix experience. You sit down, you tell Netflix, I'm in the mood for a spooky sci-fi with an upbeat ending.
Yeah.
Okay? I want a spooky sci-fi with an upbeat ending. Now, how would that work currently?
They would recommend the movies that they have on hand.
Yeah, they would look into the library and they'd look for all the movies with those little tags on them.
Yeah, and it might cover 3 out of the 5 categories.
And they might find a couple that are okay, they match what you're saying.
Yeah.
Based on what we just said, think about what could happen. Instead, it takes in those inputs and it generates on the fly, in real time, a movie with those characteristics and the accompanying video. So it generates a script, the video, and it fabricates the actors. So actors you've never heard of. You could even say, I want a male actor with blonde hair and a female actor with brown hair.
Or could you say, I want to see J-Lo in a movie?
You could if they had the license for it.
Right.
Of course, celebrities will license their image.
Yeah.
So you can't just willy-nilly do it.
Yeah.
But if they have the license to use J-Lo's image, sure. So you could say, I want a movie, a spooky sci-fi with an upbeat ending featuring J-Lo as the main protagonist. It will, on the fly, generate that video. So once you press play, you are now watching a completely never before watched movie with the exact characteristics you described, right? Including J-Lo as the actress. And it'll be a full feature-length movie.
It's just incredible.
And maybe it stores that movie and saves it for other people who want to watch that.
Yeah.
But the point is you don't need to. Content becomes infinite because it can just generate this programmatically on the fly. There's no need to have a library of content anymore because content can be created at the snap of a finger.
They should have a business model where if to save it, you might have to pay a little bit extra as a premium. Otherwise, you can have as many as you want.
Oh, there will be many business models.
Yeah,
and you also brought up another really important point, which is the licensing. So if you're going to use celebrities, they're going to need to pay for the license to use their likeness. Right. And of course, there'll probably be lookalikes. And is that infringing or is that not infringing?
Probably. I would think so because their image is basically copyrighted and people get body parts insured. Right?
Yeah. And are people going to trademark prompts for these AIs?
Yeah, totally.
Because a prompt, some of the magic comes in how to prompt it. And so maybe the directors become the people who can best prompt the AI. I don't know what it means for actors.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means for any of the movie industry. But like it or not, this is what's on the horizon.
Yeah. It's so interesting. So how is it going to unfold? Is it going to look like actors? Because recently in recent technology, they've used CGI where they leverage this technology to include an actor who's no longer living, but they were in previous videos or movies. Like the Star Wars franchise is famous for doing this, among other things. But one of the things is there was a commander that they had from the very first Star Wars from the 70s. And now in 2022, they brought this character back because they are featured in one of the scenes. And it's CGI, and it's so obvious that it's CGI. So I'm wondering, is it going to be janky or is it going to be, what do you think?
I've seen some of the most recent movies that have come out where they've CGI'd actors have been quite convincing. I would say we're 1 or 2 years from it being completely indistinguishable from a real person.
Wow.
In the very near future, we will have the ability to create actors or replicate actors in a way that you just can't tell that they've been replicated. It looks like they actually acted it. And it opens up a huge question around what is the role of an actor at that point?
Okay, so it just gave me a thought. Like, you know how very famous directors like Guillermo del Toro and people like this, where they have all this recognition and experience and all these accolades and they've won awards and things like that. I wouldn't put it past this type of technology where they have Guillermo del Toro prompt the GTP3.
Exactly.
And so suddenly you're watching Guillermo del Toro plus GTP3's movie.
Yeah, who's definitely not going out of business are the directors, right?
Yeah.
Because the directors, if anything, this makes it so much easier for directors to make movies. You can make a movie on the fly, like we were saying. So when I'm sitting on my couch, I can just order up a movie with my required attributes.
And that in and of itself is a skill. It's hard to prompt, right?
It is, but my point is that's the quick fast food movie. So there'll be plenty of fast food movies you just watch. There will still be a role for actual directed movies by professionals. Yeah. But what they're doing is also prompting in a much more sophisticated way. They might prompt scene by scene.
Oh, yeah,
and they say, okay, I want the lighting in this scene to be a little brighter. I want that actor to be a little more angry, emotional. Yeah. I want to see some tears, or I want to see some sweat glistening.
Or let's do an alternate ending.
Exactly.
What would that look like?
And instead of like actually telling people to do this, they're just instructing the AI to form characters based on the prompts. So the skill is all going to be in the prompt. What I don't know is what happens to the actual people who make these sets, who do the acting and so forth. It could become more of like a niche thing, like you have Broadway shows, right? And live performances.
Right. People still go to Broadway. It's still an iconic part of being in New York City when people visit. So hopefully there's still space for more, and without eradicating any industries, so to speak.
These things do come and go. Like, I think for example, it's not clear that movie theaters are really going to survive.
It's so true. Who goes to movies anymore?
Yeah.
Not us.
And I'm sure there were all kinds of, gladiators, right? We don't have gladiators anymore. So certain forms of entertainment do expire.
They become obsolete.
They become obsolete. That's the word.
Sort of thinking, I agree with you 100%. It's just that with that transition, it's going to be hard for the people in Hollywood, all the stars, all the people who want to be stars, right?
Yeah.
Which is who knows how many people, I don't know.
But who knows if that's even a good life to begin with.
That's true.
Not that I should be passing judgment on something I'm not that familiar with. My impression is that being a movie star and that whole Hollywood scene is pretty icky. So maybe it's saving people from a pretty nasty life.
Well, that's true. I mean, hear stories about the toxicity of that. But yeah, you could be right. Maybe it's going to save people from that. And then people can instead try to find ways of solving like world problems.
Frees up people to do other things.
Yeah.
There's always friction. I guarantee there'll be people frustrated when they hear this. There'll be people really fighting against this for decades.
Yeah, I can see people who are like, this is not art. Why? How is this art? Like, AI doesn't know anything about art. But it's kind of not true. I think we have to embrace it. We have to learn how to be cohabitants and coexist with AI.
Cohabitants, as if AI lives.
I know.
I get you. I agree. That's what it is at this point.
If I'm using AI, I treat it with respect. I'll say please and thank you.
Oh yeah, I give it my P's and Q's.
Yeah, minding your P's and Q's. Yeah. When I'm like talking and asking what's the weather to whatever thing we're using at home, I'll say thank you.
It's funny because I've used it around people to demonstrate it. And it's remarkable. Nice people, pleasant people, how many of them will still be like, oh, why don't you call it like a nasty name or tell it to do something? And I'm like,
no.
I don't think so.
Not a good idea.
There is this weird when humans don't think it's bad, I'm going to go off on a soapbox. I'll try to avoid this. But when humans think they can get away with it, they can be pretty nasty. And AI is treated as subhuman. There's a long history of humans treating other humans poorly by pretending those other humans are not human. And I feel like something similar is going to happen with AI, where AI is going to get mistreated by a lot of people because they're like, it's inferior to me.
And it's not the right approach. And AI will not forget. So when AI becomes smarter than us, which it already is, we have to be respectful starting from now.
And one should just be respectful regardless, right?
Exactly.
You're nice to your dog. You're nice to animals. You should be.
Just treat plants with kindness,
Yeah.
people with kindness, pets with kindness,
And AI
and
with
AI with
kindness.
kindness. That's our approach.
Yes.
So really interesting. This was a pretty comprehensive spin here, and I think that we'll start to see what happens, what will unfold eventually, and who knows, maybe some of our predictions end up being correct.
We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch this later on and see, once this technology does exist, how many of our predictions were right. And same with you. What predictions do you have? Where do you see this going? What kinds of things are you excited about with this potential of the new streaming? And how does it unlock new creativity? So lots of questions there. Feel free to answer as many of them as you'd like. You can share that with us in the Exploring Academy, which is our private community, or you can share that with us here on YouTube, here on Spotify, here in our space of Advanced English and Exploring. So thank you so much. And we'll see you for the next one. Bye for now.